There's no winner here?
It's not that there's no winner. I just don't understand what the win is for the Sixers besides an emotional one of getting rid of Simmons. From an actual basketball standpoint, player to player, I don't think that they improved that much at all.
And
No.
Bob?
No, I don't. I agree, and I just think that Harden has to prove himself in this new circumstance, and how that may adversely affect Embiid if he doesn't.
Let's talk about that. Is there any concern how Harden and Embiid fit? Can Embiid do what he's doing right now, which is one of the great seasons we've seen from a big man, and can Harden do what he does simultaneously? Kevin, you want to answer that?
That's a great question, because we know that if Harden can't do what he does simultaneously with what Embiid does, that he may in 9 months or 10 months want out of the 76ers.
All right, he has brought on contract-wise.
Teams.
He's already extended himself for the
right.
But we've seen it before. I understand what you're saying there.
Yeah, but that's a great question about chemistry. Can those two get together? You're talking about a guy in James Harden who has to have the ball to make things happen. And you're talking about a guy in Embiid who is going to have the ball in order to make an impact on the floor. So that's a great chemistry question.
Clinton, you've seen Harden lead the league in assists before. Do you believe the Embiid-Harden fit can work?
I think it can work just fine from a spacing standpoint, but I just don't think that the ceiling is that high necessarily, and you've got such a short runway to make sure that this can work. This seems so difficult in terms of what you had, as Bob mentioned, for a team that does not look bad, but could have used some improvements to change this much of the engine this late in the race. I don't know, man. I just don't think this is a smart
Bob,
plan.
on how Embiid and Harden fit together.
I'm not sure. I don't trust Harden. And by the way, he hasn't been a really winning ball player going all the way back to Oklahoma City in the playoffs. And he puts up these humongous numbers. He does these things. He has to step back. I think he's bribed every scorekeeper in the league, because I can't remember any of these assists, but I guess he gets them somehow, mystery assists. I just don't feel comfortable with it from a Philadelphia viewpoint.
And Jun Lee.
Yeah, I'm not convinced on the fit between Embiid and Harden, because Harden dominates the ball so much. And we've seen him play with talented big men before, and Dwight Howard when he was much more talented earlier in his career. Embiid is obviously kind of a different version of a big man, a more modern big man who handles the ball a lot more. But I am not convinced that this is going to work, because Harden really does need to control the ball in order to control the pace of the offense. And we've seen that when he's the focal point in the offense, he's not great at kind of creating space for other people to shine in the same way that Embiid has required over the course of this season to kind of put up the numbers that he has.
The Brooklyn makeover, it's just fascinating. The big three they had, which was a total of 16 games, and they bail on that. And now, how do Durant and Ben Simmons, and a half of Kyrie Irving for the moment, fit? Does Simmons need a workup? Can he get up in time to mesh for the playoffs? Anyone want to try to get their arms around that? Clinton Yates?
I think it's the best case scenario if you're Simmons. You're coming onto a team where you're not expected to do the bulk of the work, but you know what's cut out for you. I think this is going to be a very tricky job for Steve Nash in terms of how he gets them to fit, but I think it is a more natural one than what the Sixers are dealing with. I think Ben Simmons can fit into this squad, and I actually think they have improved tremendously because of him, even though they got rid of him.
Yeah, you know what? He's going to be playing with Kevin Durant when Kevin Durant comes back from being hurt. Kevin Durant is a great teammate on the floor, maybe off the floor as well. He's the guy who leads teams to championships. We've already seen that. So all Ben Simmons has to do is follow Kevin Durant's lead. And that's the smart thing to do. That's why you're there. This isn't your team. There is no pressure on you. You just have to play defense, play smart, and do what Kevin Durant says.
No pressure on Ben Simmons after sitting out half of a year, Bob?
Well, there's going to be that inherent kind of pressure, but I think he's going to have a very specific job description. It'll be well explained to him by Steve Nash, who I think is a good coach for the circumstance. And he'll do what he does offensively, and the things that he doesn't do, perhaps the Nets can get away, avoid. Don't have to worry about it, as you already pointed out.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.